Movies.
Five Nights at Freddy's is directed by Emma Tammy and stars Josh Hutcherson and Matthew Lillard. It's based on the iconic video game series of the same name. And I think a lot of us, we've been waiting for this shit for like almost 10 years now. It had a lot of delays, a lot of cancellations, to the point where all of us, I think, were wondering, was this movie ever going to be a thing? Were we ever going to get a Five Nights at Freddy's movie? Because the idea of it became kind of, I guess, it didn't really feel as real. It didn't really feel as possible. And I think that this wasn't exactly the movie we expected to have in 2023. And it was a pleasant surprise seeing the trailer, having it announced. It was a very, the trailer itself, I didn't particularly get any bad vibes off it. I just sort of just wanted to reserve my judgment for when I actually go into the experience and see this film. And was I excited for it? Absolutely. And can I say that there are positives about this film? 100%. I think that the movie has really great costume design. The animatronics look absolutely fantastic. The set design was also spectacular. I absolutely loved the pizzeria. It looked incredible. And I think they even added a couple of new additions to help the setting feel a lot more realistic and convincing. And in terms of positives, I think that's as far as I go. This film was an absolute mess. From the first scene of the movie, I couldn't tell if this was going to be a comedy, if this was going to be a horror. I didn't know what it was going to be. But once again, I tried to reserve my judgment. And I guess there was no real need to do that because the execution, or what I watched twice, didn't really feel like a Five Nights at Freddy's movie as much as it felt like a horror movie in the sort of, I guess, in the sort of style of Smile and It Lives Inside, in terms of being this movie about trying to find out more about this paranormal, horrifying entity. And then, you know, eventually the creature reveal happens. But except this movie is basically devoid of even a mystery. See, at least It Lives Inside and Smile had a character sort of digging into the rabbit hole and finding themselves further and further into this nightmare and more in danger. But this movie, the danger fuel itself felt particularly low, which is kind of surprising given it's based on one of the most paranoid games you could play during this time. It's no Resident Evil, but it's definitely got a lot of tension. The games are really fucking scary. I mean, at least the first few to Sister Location I found particularly scary myself. There's just this real sense of dread and urgency. It's like the security cameras, the doors that you have, everything you have to protect yourself is this false sense of security that kind of dies throughout the game. And therefore, that false sense of security is ultimately dropped and you, as a player, feel unsafe. This movie echoed absolutely none of that. In fact, this movie is pretty much just devoid of any sort of atmosphere and even fun. Because half of this movie is watching Josh Hutcherson falling asleep rather than checking the cameras and doing his duties. And the rest of this movie is Josh Hutcherson trying to battle a child custody situation, and that in and of itself wasn't even that gripping. So if you're not going to make that gripping, and if you're not going to make me care about the characters, and if you're not going to really create that atmosphere that the games did a really good job of, then what's the point? What's the point of watching a Five Nights at Freddy's movie if it's devoid of any of that? The movie isn't doing something different. Well, it kind of is, but just in a less good way. It's more so just minimizing any sense of dread that you actually feel. There were modifications to the game that were adapted into this film, all right? This film it's very bland, very clean of any sense of violence or brutality that the games had, and the really grisly nature of the games felt pretty missing here, pretty absent, and that's a real problem if you want me to feel invested in your Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Because despite the fact that I understand that the movie was trying to compensate for the people who have been waiting for this movie for like 10 years, I really didn't feel like they tried too much in terms of actually scaring the audience. There were maybe like 2-3 horror scenes in that entire movie, chase sequences that felt absolutely devoid, once again, of, I don't know, that horrific feeling of Foxy running towards you in the game. Like, there was absolutely nothing scary about that movie. The most menacing character of that movie was a fucking cupcake and an annoying aunt. Like, what the fuck? If your Five Nights at Freddy's movie, if the scariest part of that movie isn't even Springtrap, then what the fuck are you doing? I'm sorry, but like, what are you doing? A way that you could have made the movie scarier is if there was more emphasis placed on the primary location of the games. I know that people are making fun of critics in that it's like, oh, they expected the movie just to be like Five Nights at Freddy's, like at the security office the whole time. That couldn't have made a good movie. That is not great logic, because the thing is, there are so many good movies that have been set in one location and have made a lot, and have even been films that kind of reveal more about characters as it goes along. Have you not seen Saw? I get there's like more locations than one in Saw, but the film is primarily set in one location, right? So Five Nights at Freddy's could have done something similar. Instead, it chose to dawdle around with random pointless dream sequences that don't really feel like they visually reveal anything new. They more so repeat the same shots, the same sequence of events, just with characters giving more different exposition. And that's what this film is. It's exposition. Exposition on top of exposition. And that is what drives the plot. Literally, the first time that Mike, Josh Hutcherson, goes to the pizzeria, there's this really awkward placement where Shaggy is giving this real strange and out of place exposition dump. And the thing is that you can totally tell that while they were writing this film, it felt like, okay, we have to put it somewhere. The exposition, it has to go somewhere. Oh, I know. We'll just place it in the scene where Josh Hutcherson is driving so that it doesn't mess with the pacing. Except it does, because it just makes it feel more jarring and it feels really squeezed in. So I understand that this movie was aiming to be a fun, entertaining movie for fans. But if you really want a fun, entertaining fan service movie about video games, go watch the Mario movie. Because even though Mario wasn't like the pinnacle of video game media, we saw that with The Last of Us, it's at least delivered on the fan service elements. It's like you got an overload of this crazy shit. Except Yoshi, what the fuck, man? But in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, it is not really that true to the spirit of the games, except the location and the set design itself. But a good set design is not enough. You need to be able to really make it feel like a daunting place. A place that isn't just reminiscent of the old games. It needs to feel like it has essence. The whole point of Five Nights at Freddy's is that it's scary, yeah? It's not a family movie. It's not a comedy. It's a horror movie. You can make it PG-13 all you like. That doesn't mean the movie can't be scary. I do agree that the build-up and then a lack of violence was pretty lame, and it was very underwhelming to watch and felt like the movie was just kind of teasing us with the idea of violence just not being there just for younger audiences. I feel like the movie actually could have had something there in terms of tension, but it didn't. There was no tension in this movie. So, really, I absolutely understand why people would like this movie. I absolutely understand the appeal it has, and technically I should be part of that appeal, given I am still a fan of the games myself. But this movie really did close to nothing for me. Despite the fact that we got some really, really cool moments and some really great attention to detail, the scenes with actual scary shit happening are few and far between. And it's as if this movie is more so focused on its wholesome, strangely wholesome moments rather than being a movie about animatronics trying to kill people, which is kind of the original game. Yeah, man. Really, there's nothing else for me to really say. To be honest, 2 out of 10. Really disappointing. But what did you guys think? I want to know. Was the movie good? Was the movie bad? Tell me all about it in the comments, because I would absolutely love to know everyone else's opinion. And if we could just keep it cool, keep it nice down there, no arguing, no being dickheads towards each other, because that's not what we want here. We just want fun. This movie was made for fun, and a lot of people had fun during this movie. So please, if people have that opinion, don't fucking judge them for it. Don't be an asswipe. Just have your own opinion and be okay with that. I'll see you guys later.